December 7th, 1941. Hawaii. 353 Japanese aircraft appear over the horizon before dawn. In 2 hours, 2,403 Americans are dead. 8 battleships are damaged or destroyed. The United States Pacific Fleet is crippled, and America enters the war. But here is what almost no one knows. The man who planned that attack, the admiral who designed every detail of the strike, did not want it to happen. Admiral Yamamoto told Japan's leaders directly, "Do not go to war with the United States. You cannot win. Their industry is too powerful. Their people are too determined. This war will destroy Japan." They ignored him and ordered him to plan the attack anyway. So what if Yamamoto had succeeded? Not in attacking Pearl Harbor, but in stopping it. To understand this moment, you need to understand what Japan was thinking in 1941. Japan had been at war in China since 1937. The war was expensive, brutal, and consuming resources Japan did not have. To keep fighting, Japan needed oil, and most of Asia's oil was in the Dutch East Indies, modern-day Indonesia, controlled by European colonial powers already weakened by Hitler's war in Europe. The problem was the United States. America had watched Japan's expansion in Asia with growing alarm. In 1941, the US imposed an oil embargo on Japan, cutting off roughly 80% of Japan's oil supply. For Japanese military leaders, this was an existential threat. Without oil, the army stops. Without the army, the empire collapses. Their logic, brutal as it was, followed from this. If war with America was coming anyway, better to strike first. Better to cripple the US Pacific Fleet before it could be used against Japan. Better to buy time, enough time to seize the oil fields of Southeast Asia and build a defensive perimeter so strong that America would eventually negotiate rather than fight for years to take it apart. It was a gamble, and the man they asked to design that gamble knew it was a losing one. Isoroku Yamamoto was not a fanatic. He was not a nationalist dreamer who believed Japan was destined to rule Asia. He was a strategist, and strategists count what they have against what the enemy has. Yamamoto had lived in the United States. He had studied at Harvard. He had watched American factories, American oil fields, American shipyards. He understood something that Tokyo's war planners refused to accept. Japan could not win a long war against the United States. Not because Japanese soldiers were not brave or Japanese commanders not skilled, but because America's industrial capacity was simply in a different category. Every ship Japan sank, America could replace twice over. Every plane lost, America could build 10 more. Yamamoto said this directly. He warned his government that he could fight brilliantly for 6 months, perhaps a year, and then Japan would face the full weight of American industry, and there would be nothing left to fight with. They heard him, they ignored him, and they ordered him to plan Pearl Harbor. He did, because he was a soldier, and soldiers follow orders. But he designed the attack around the only logic that made any sense to him. Hit so hard, so fast, so shockingly, that America hesitates long enough for Japan to build its defensive wall. He was wrong about the hesitation. Pearl Harbor did not make America hesitate. It made America furious. Now imagine Yamamoto succeeds, not in the attack, but in the argument. Japan's leaders in late 1941 are still debating. The military wants war. Diplomats are still talking to Washington. Emperor Hirohito has not yet formalized the decision. There is a window, small, closing fast, where a different outcome is possible. A Yamamoto who is listened to means Japan steps back from the edge. Not permanently, not peacefully, but the attack on December 7th does not happen. What happens instead? The oil embargo is still there. Japan still needs oil. The pressure does not go away. But without Pearl Harbor, the United States does not enter the war on December 8th. Roosevelt does not go before Congress and call it a date which will live in infamy. The American public, which was deeply divided about entering the war in Europe, does not receive the shock that unites it overnight. America stays out, for now. This is where the alternate history becomes genuinely complicated. Because Yamamoto was right about one thing. Japan and the United States were already on a collision course. The oil embargo, the war in China, the expansion into Southeast Asia, these were not problems that diplomacy was going to solve easily. Another crisis was coming, somewhere in the Pacific. Another flashpoint, another moment where the two powers would find themselves shooting at each other. Pearl Harbor did not make war inevitable. It made war immediate. Without it, the United States might have stayed formally out of direct combat for months, perhaps longer. Britain and the Soviet Union continue fighting Hitler without the full weight of American military power behind them. The war in Europe grinds on differently, more slowly, with less American material flooding into the Allied supply lines. And in the Pacific, Japan moves into Southeast Asia anyway, because the oil is still there and Japan still needs it. American and Japanese forces begin clashing over the Philippines, over trade routes, over strategic islands. The war comes, just not all at once, not with the clarity of a Sunday morning attack that left no room for debate. Yamamoto understood what Pearl Harbor would do to America better than anyone in Tokyo. He knew that a sleeping giant, once awakened, does not go back to sleep. He knew that the same industrial power he had watched in America would eventually be turned against Japan with full force. He was right. By 1945, Japan lay in ruins. 2 atomic bombs, every major city burned, the empire gone. Pearl Harbor did not save Japan. It accelerated its destruction, exactly as Yamamoto had warned. The tragedy of December 7th, 1941, is not just the 2,403 Americans who died that morning. It is that the man who designed the attack had told his government, in plain language, that it would lead to exactly this outcome. They attacked anyway. Next episode, D-Day fails. The Allied invasion of Normandy is turned back, and we ask what happens to a war that loses its turning point.